humans that live 90 plus years. But this is far from an out-of-the-ballpark philosophy, and you may even be living it yourself. Ever choose between two things at the grocery store and pick up the one that says natural or organic on the label because it must be the better one? This is the appeal to nature. Unfortunately, the appeal to nature is largely deemed a fallacy. Research in the real world doesn't support the idea that just because something is natural, it's better. And when you play out an appeal to argument nature, a lot of times you can't even define whether or not something is natural in the first place. For instance, you might buy a nice organic banana from the grocery store thinking that it's natural, but it turns out the bananas we eat now look nothing like their ancestor natural bananas. Humans have cultivated bananas to look the way that they do over thousands of years. Still natural to eat a banana after all that human tampering? It's unclear. Is farming food even natural, or should we be only eating things that we forage from nature? Even in the show, Bruce himself preaches a natural life, yet he refuses to poop his egg and die. He's sitting around making videos for GlorzoTube, shilling for the likes like an intergalactic Wolfie raps. Even halfway across the universe, it still feels really awkward. So Bruce is clearly wrong here, right? An appeal to nature is a fallacy. It's been proven many times in every area to be a fallacy. Steve is the one who's right then. Onward and upward through progress. He's right? Right? Well, it's certainly tempting to agree with him. After all, the movement that Summer starts seems to be moving in the direction of less death and more flourishing. It's an opportunity for the people of Glorzo to live out their lives. They can go to school, they can invent things, they create a thriving metropolis. Everything seems cool until Summer decides that she wants to leave the planet, and suddenly they go from worshipping her as Empress to executing her.
She's trying to escape with her family. My time to shine. Execute her.
Wow, just like that, guys. No trial, no starting with a simple downgrade of, you know what, you don't get to be Empress anymore, but maybe we don't go to immediately killing you. Though it's played for the laughs, it illustrates the harsh truth. Progress always comes with a cost, and the cost is paid by pretty much anyone who isn't Glorzo. This is an example of evolutionary ethics. Humans, being in the bizarre position that we're in of not only being able to affect our own evolution, but being aware that we're doing it, are faced with moral decisions about whether the good of us trumps the good of everything else, and whether progress makes it okay to change or destroy everything around us.
Looking at me through your window, boy, you had your eye out for a little. I cut you up to make you do it. You reached in, you are the winner. Rolling down your tinted window, driving next to me real slow. He said, let me take you for a joyride. I'm glad you told me for you.
And so again, we arrive at another Rick and Morty episode where both sides of the philosophical argument seem to be wrong. Appeal to nature sucks, but Glorzo-style progress at all costs sucks too. Am I personally
Hour and a half
progress? You betcha.
gives me
150
enough
years
time
ago,
to
over
make a
40% of
reaction
people born didn't survive until adulthood. But do I always want to live with the guilt of, well, living? Well, it turns out the argument doesn't end here. Listen to Bruce's argument again.
Oh, yeah. Now you respect, like, the biological institutions now? All you care about is progress and society and skyscrapers.
There's something more subtle than progress versus nature implied here. Bruce, while he's talking about wanting to go back to the old days, implies that Steve's way of life is just progress for progress's sake. If all Steve cares about is skyscrapers, then yeah, that is kind of lame. He's saying that there's no greater purpose to what Steve is building, versus, at least if you're living 30 minutes and pooping out an egg, you know what your purpose in life is. In the end, it may well be that Bruce isn't opposed to progress.
Oh, bitch! Where the fuck am I?
Living in a society that only cares about
Who is you?
of progress. Only cares about
No, ma'am, I will drag you all the way to hell!
The Glorzo is Peace movement hasn't made life better for Bruce. In fact, the reason he resents it is because it separated him from the one person that he loved.
Why do you hate her so much? She took you away from me!
A life, even a life that is long and full of flashy technology and infinite infrastructure, isn't necessarily a life that's worthwhile if it doesn't have meaning. And that is something that might resonate with a lot of people, especially those living in first world countries that are on the cutting edge of what might be called human progress. Paradoxically, rates of depression are higher in wealthier countries than they are in poorer countries. And within those countries, richer neighborhoods actually have higher suicide rates than lower income neighborhoods. There are a lot of people who, maybe like Bruce, feel that even if society has improved, they've been left behind. Or, as Morty points out, being stuck in a society that's obsessed with advancing itself and and squeezing every last bit of productivity
Not
out
your
of
Barbie
every
girl, I'm living in my own world. I am plastic, call me classic.
I'm sure you'll make this into a beautiful short film that your parents will pay for, Morty.
Even Bruce's admission that all he wants to do is have a family with Steve is a hallmark.
I can't wait to leave this town, 'cause lately I've been feeling down. The cold nights just don't feel the same. Pack my life inside a car, hit the road and drive real far. Put that record on me die. I'm dreaming of you, I dream of a new night. Fighting the dark till we see the sunlight. My love is you and I. Cross closer to darkness fire. So reach for the stars, 'cause we're aiming high.
Yes, I've got clothes on, I've got pajamas on. Because we're having a chat about clothes when I'm with
You can't wait to see me now, 'cause lately you've been feeling down. You lay awake alone at night. Like your life inside a car. Forget the world and drive real far. Put that record on again. My love is you and I. Cross closer to darkness fire. So reach for the stars, 'cause we're aiming high.
Back into science fiction. But first, I wanted to take a minute to just talk about. Excuse me.
someone else's name is CJ.
Seems like some road
My
visitors
brother's
just opened
not.
a
Yeah,
trans-dimensional
really
gateway in
was.
my living room. Can I-
Words you told me, love me till the day I die.
You wouldn't happen to know where that is
Surrender everything, 'cause you made me believe.
31. But while we're on the topic, you're technically using the
Yeah,
word
you used to call me baby, and now you're calling me by name.
I'm sure you're familiar with the elements of height, which,
Takes one to know why, yeah, you be at my own game.
You don't want to just
Pushing you, pushing, I'm pulling away from you. I give it, you take, giving you take. Young blood, see you want me, the idea is that, and I'm just a dead man walking tonight. But you need it, yeah, you need it, all of this time, yeah. Young blood, see you want me, back in your life, so I'm just a dead man calling tonight. 'Cause I need it, yeah, I need it, all of this time, yeah. Lately our conversations end like it's the last goodbye. That one of us gets too drunk and calls about 100 times. So who even calling, baby? Nobody could take my place. When you looking at those strangers, hope to God you see my face. Young girl, see you want me, out of your life, and I'm just a dead man walking tonight. But you need it, yeah you need it, all of the time, yeah. Young girl, see you want me, back in your life, so I'm just a dead man walking tonight.
Real written detailed working portal that happened during the audience's first encounter with the Council of Rings, where we learned that, much like your internet browser, the portal gun keeps a detailed list of all the locations its users visited.
Come on, don't look at another man's portal gun history. We all go to weird places.
Later in the series and elsewhere in the Citadel, we learned that the portal gun relies on some sort of fluid.
I want a portal gun with enough fluid to take me off this
Out of
planet.
your life, young girl, but you need it, yeah you need it, all of the time, yeah. Young girl, see you want me, out of your life, and I'm just a dead man walking tonight. But you need it, yeah you need it, all of the time, yeah. Wishing, pulling away. Giving you take. Young girl, see you want me, out of your life, and I'm just a dead man walking tonight.
Out anywhere, not just within our own universe, but between
Hey, say my name. You're more beautiful than everybody else in the game. A good girl with a bad attitude, all dressed up like you, Rihanna. Work in the room. Show me what you got. Let it go right off your tongue. Hit me with your best shot. Tell me out. I said, hey, so hit me where it hurts. Say my name like it's a bad word. Say my name like it's a bad word. Hey, so hit me where it hurts. Say my name like it's a bad word. Say my name like it's a bad word. Hey, every touch is a trap. I know you got the best of me, but the rest is up for grabs. So blah, you my favorite noise. So baby, say my name until you losing your voice. Show me what you got. Let it roll right off your tongue. Hit me with your best shot. Tell me out. I said, hey, so hit me where it hurts. Say my name like it's a bad word. Say my name like it's a bad word. Hey, so hit me where it hurts. Say my name like it's a bad word. Say my name like it's a bad word.
no way more serious construct explaining your presence on the show.
Show me what you got. Let it roll right off your tongue. Hit me with your best shot. Tell me out. Hey, so hit me where it hurts. Say my name like it's a bad word. Say my name like it's a bad word. Hey, so hit me where it hurts. Say my name like it's a bad word. Say my name like it's a bad word. I said, hey, so hit me where it hurts. Say my name like it's a bad word. Say my name like it's a bad word. Hey, so hit me where it hurts. Say my name like it's a bad word.
In this case, they escape from their original universe when Rick is unable to cure a genetic epidemic by going into a brand new universe where Rick does manage to create the cure. Two worlds branched out from one core decision.
Correct, but only if you needed it to explain that one scene in Rick Potion number 9. But it wouldn't explain Lizard Morty or Hammerhead Morty. You get that from the multiverse hypothesis, which states that there are many, perhaps infinitely many, Big Bangs that each started their own universes. They all coexist, and because they each had their own beginning, they could have completely different laws of physics, or completely different Mortys.
As opposed to many worlds.
All right,
where you
Max.
always start
You've had your cookies and milk. Now go to sleep.
Well, many worlds
I'll try.
Explain similar Earth-like
Go to sleep.